watching. Today I just wanted to show you my horror and thriller book collection that I have. So I'll just be going through each book. A lot of them I have not read yet, I'll be completely honest. But a lot of them I have, and I'll just go through and kind of let you know what I thought of them. And just so that if you want to add any of these to your TBR, great. If not, great. But here we go. So I have my little horror shelf displayed here, and I've got a few Stephen King's. The first one here is The Shining. I read this several months ago. It was my first Stephen King book that I ever read. I actually had a hard time getting through it. Maybe it's because the main character was going crazy, but I felt very bored at times. Now there were times where it was super scary and I got totally freaked out, which was great, and I loved the thrilling, horror of that. But I think I gave it a 3 or 4 on Goodreads out of 5 stars. The ending was great and climactic and everything, but I had to struggle for the first few hundred pages. But overall, I'm very glad I read it. It's a classic Stephen King book, and I have not seen the movie or anything, but I am glad that I read the book. I do recommend it, but again, I don't know if I would reread it anytime soon. Secondly, I have Pet Sematary. I read this one much more recently. I read this much faster than The Shining. It really grabs your attention pretty quickly. It's a lot darker in the ending. It's very twisted and horrific in a sense. Very interesting, and I really liked it, enjoyed it. But again, just be aware of what you're getting into before you read it. This is the book I believe Stephen King kept in his drawer for years before publishing because he thought maybe he went too far with it. But again, I did like it. It was very scary, very good, and a much faster read for me than The Shining. My third Stephen King book that I have is It. I have not tackled this one yet. I'm really hoping to get to it here in 2021, but it is like 1,100 pages. So, but that is my plan, is to read it this year. I've heard mixed reviews on it. Some people really love it and some people hate it. That's the last of my Stephen King collection. It's very small. Mexican Gothic. I read this book recently. It was on like a Amazon book club, and so I bought it and read it, and oh my gosh, I absolutely loved it. It was so good. I just loved everything about it. The story got going really quickly. It is so unique and strange and creepy and weird, and I loved it. And it had a great ending. I just loved it. I recommend it to like everyone. Anyone who likes any kind of horror or thriller, it is so good. So one of my favorite horror books, if not my favorite that I've read. Excellent book. I got this at Barnes & Noble a while back. H.P. Lovecraft, Great Tales of Horror. I have not read this yet, but it was only $8, and so I grabbed it to add to my collection. But at some point, maybe I'll get through it. I grabbed Imaginary Friend. I don't even know technically if this is a horror book, but it looks like one. So I put it on my horror shelf. I got this at Half Price Bookstore for just a few dollars, I think. I do want to read this soon. It's not at the top of my TBR or anything, but it looks really interesting. Again, I've seen some mixed reviews, so I guess we'll see what I think when I get there. Another book that I absolutely loved was The Sundown Motel. I loved this book so much. I read it pretty quickly. From the very beginning, it just takes off, and you're kind of following I don't want to give too much away, but you're following kind of 2 different storylines, and it's amazing. It's got great horror ghosts, but it's not like overly scary. Like you're not gonna have, I didn't have nightmares or anything. I just thought this was a perfect, horror book, especially maybe if you want to get like an introduction to horror, because to me it wasn't that scary, but it was so intriguing and so interesting, and it was creepy, but like so good. So I really recommend this one. I loved this book. I purchased The Broken Girls because it's by the same author as The Sundown Motel, Simone St. James. So I'm really excited to read this one. I have not read it yet, but it is on my TBR, and hopefully soon I'll get to this one. So I'm excited. And here's another I have not read yet, but it sounded super intriguing. The Invited. I grabbed this at Barnes & Noble. Says a chilling ghost story with a twist. The New York Times bestselling author of The Winter People returns to the woods of Vermont to tell the story of a husband and wife who don't simply move into a haunted house, they build one. So this seems super intriguing to me, and I kept grabbing it and then putting it back on the shelves and then grabbing it, and I finally just got it because it just looks so intriguing to me and I can't wait to read it. And then my last two horror books are two of Darcy Coates' books. I have The Haunting of Rookwood House and The Haunting of Ashburn House. I'm really excited to read these. They look really intriguing and interesting and scary. And I just watched The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix with my sister, and we could not stop watching it no matter how scared we got. So these kind of had those vibes, and so I'm really excited to see how these go. Next, we'll go ahead and move on to my thrillers. Let's go here in order. First, I have The Silent Patient. I read this in, I guess it's last year now, 2020. And there's a lot of hype around this book. And I was so excited to read it. And I think I built up in my head a lot. It was good, but I kind of got bored for a majority of it. I don't know, I gave it maybe like 3 stars on Goodreads, I think. It's good, and I recommend it if you want to read it. Just be patient and don't let the hype get to you. Just be an open-minded. I felt like most of the exciting part for me was the very end. I mean, it has a huge twist at the end, which was insane and really entertaining, but I don't know if I'll read it again. Again, I'm glad I read it. There's a lot of hype surrounding it, and it was good, but not one of my favorite thrillers, to be honest. I have The Da Vinci Code, which unfortunately, I know I have not read yet, but I really want to read it this year. I'm really excited. I know that some people, or pretty much everyone that I know that has read it, says it's so good, and I'm really excited. I got it at a half-price bookstore for like next to nothing. So this book I also got at the half-price bookstore. It looked so good. The Husband's Secret. It's from the author of the critically acclaimed What Alice Forgot. Comes a novel about the secrets husband and wives keep from each other. So I'm pretty excited about this. It's got some good reviews and whatnot, and it has a really cool cover. So I'm excited to read this one. This one I got for my birthday. I asked for it. It had great reviews on Amazon. The Girl Who Lived. So I got it as part of that. It looks like it's a pretty short read. So I'm really excited to get to it and just kind of see what happens with that. I've also got Secrets in Death. A friend has gifted it to me. Thank you, Misty. And I have not gotten to it yet, but I'm really excited to. This book by Lisa Gardner, Look For Me. I grabbed it. It was in the clearance aisle in Barnes & Noble. A lot of these were in the clearance aisle of Barnes & Noble, but it looked really interesting. The author of Find Her, I have not read that either, but I'm pretty excited about it. I'm excited about all of these, but again, one of many of my unread books on my shelves. By the same author, I have Right Behind You. This was also just a few dollars at Barnes & Noble, so I grabbed it, and yeah, it looks really good. I have Into the Water. Again, on sale, Barnes & Noble. I grabbed this one specifically because it's by Paula Hawkins, who wrote Girl on a Train, which was good. I got that right here. It was good. I read it a few years ago, so it's been a while, and I was intrigued. It moved maybe a little slow from what I can recall, but it was good and I enjoyed it. One of the first thrillers I've read, I believe. So I have those two. I've also got The Last House Guest. This also looked very interesting. Again, on clearance. I grab a lot of clearance books, and so obviously I haven't gotten to very many of these yet. By the same author, Megan Miranda. I've got All the Missing Girls. I believe this was also a Barnes & Noble's purchase, so I've got a whole bunch of these. This book, The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter. I did read this maybe about halfway through 2020, and it took me a little while. It grabs your attention from the very beginning. It is a very dark story, but it is intriguing. I don't know that I'd read it again. Again, it's good, and the ending, I'm trying to remember if I even remember the ending. But it was good and very intriguing, but there are some very dark aspects of it. There's some sexual assault and stuff that they look back on that's kind of difficult to read. So just be aware of that if you pick this up. This book was also Barnes & Noble, Never Have I Ever. And it was kind of popular when it came out, so I grabbed a copy of it, but again, I have not read this yet. I've got The Other Woman, one of Reese's book club books. Haven't read this yet either, but I've heard some good things, so I'm pretty excited about that. This book I ordered off Amazon called Here to Stay. It just sounded so interesting. Here, I'll read you. Gemma Robinson comes into Elliot's life like a whirlwind, and they marry and settle into his home. When she asks him if her parents can come to stay for a couple of weeks, he is keen to oblige. He just doesn't quite know what he's signing up for. The Robinsons arrive with Gemma's sister Chloe, a mysterious young woman who refuses to speak or leave her room. Elliot starts to suspect that the Robinsons are hiding a dark secret, and then there are the scars on his wife's body that she won't talk about. As Elliot's in-laws become more comfortable in his home, encroaching on all aspects of his life, it becomes clear that they have no intention of moving out. To protect Gemma and their marriage, Elliot delves into the Robinsons' past, but is he prepared to find the truth? So I'm really excited about this. It sounds so intriguing and just like, I don't know, I'm really excited to read this. I really hope to get to it soon here in 2021. This is the 2 million copy best-selling author. So I'm really excited about this. This book I grabbed, it was in the clearance at Barnes & Noble again, because there was like a little damage to it, but it's like really not a big deal. It like only affects like the very, very top of the page. So I grabbed it. It's called Baby Teeth. It sounds super interesting and creepy, and so I grabbed a copy of it. I'm really excited. I really want to read this year as well. I've had this book for a while now. It was one of the first books when I started collecting, My Sister's Grave. Again, I have not read this yet either. I got into this big fantasy phase, and so a lot of my books kind of sat. But this sounded really good when I looked it up on Amazon. So I got a copy of it, and unfortunately it's just been sitting here. So I really do need to get to this one soon as well. Little Fires Everywhere. I got this. I know there's a lot of hype surrounding this as well, and I wanted to read the book before I watched the show. I know some people said that it's like so good, and then some people thought it was just okay. So I'm not quite sure. I'm going into it with an open mind. I try not to get too involved in the hype with all the books, but we'll see how that goes. Dark Places, Gillian Flynn. I have not read this one yet, but I really want to. It sounds really dark and creepy and right up my alley, so I'm excited. I have not, the only one of Gillian Flynn's that I have read is Sharp Objects, and it was so good and it's a nice short book, but there's a lot in it and a lot to unpack and uncover, and it was shocking and good. And I watched the HBO series, and that was so well done. So I recommend the book and then watching the show. It's dark, but it was just so entertaining and thrilling. I have started Gone Girl, the book. I did not get far. I'm only a couple chapters in, and then of course I got distracted by my fantasy books. But so far I was already intrigued just from the first couple chapters, so I really do want to continue it and get it, get the whole thing read. And I know there's a movie out, I believe, on this that I'd like to see after reading the book. Okay, right down to my last shelf. These are where I keep my favorite thriller authors. First I've got Ruth Ware. I love Ruth Ware. I love everything she's written. Her new book, One by One, I read. It was super interesting and captivating and gets your attention right away. It's so good. I loved it. I loved the characters, how intriguing it was. Just a very good winter read. So I highly recommend it. I recommend everything by Ruth Ware. This is also it's a good book. Then I've got The Woman in Cabin 10. I actually really enjoyed this. I knew there was a lot of hype around this one. I think this might be one of her earlier ones. Don't quote me on that. But I was actually surprised at how much I really liked it. It was super intriguing and it was just great. I really enjoyed every minute of it. I got into it right away. The Lying Game was the first book of hers that I read, and I just couldn't put it down. I loved it. It's not my favorite by Ruth Ware, but it was really good and intriguing, and I love the characters. It's kind of a slow burn, I guess, thriller in a sense, but really good, and you just are dying to know more as things are uncovered, and just really well done. And I love the way she writes, where you almost feel like you're there. The descriptions and everything, I just love it. In a Dark, Dark Wood. This one was probably one of my least favorites, and it's still really good, but this one also had so much hype around it, and it was good, and I think after sitting on it for a while after I had finished, the more I appreciated it. But while I was reading it, I think just maybe compared to the others, it wasn't my favorite, but it was good, and there were some really good, nice, creepy moments. The Turn of the Key, I absolutely loved. This one is so good. I think this is one of the newer ones. Really interesting, very different setting with a very modern, advanced house that these people live in, and it's just really creepy and good, and it ends very differently than some of her others, and I kind of liked it. Usually I don't like when things seem kind of unfinished at the end, but it works in this one, at least in my opinion. The Death of Mrs. Westaway. This is my favorite of Ruth Ware's books. I absolutely loved it. It was one of the last ones I read of hers, and I adored it. I loved the characters. I loved the uniqueness and the creepy old house. It was so good, and the mystery that you're solving is it's so interesting, and I love the twists. It was highly, highly recommend this one. I recommend this one probably the most of all of the Ruth Ware's books. Lisa Jewell, Family Upstairs. I did not realize how much I was going to absolutely love this book until after I finished it. I could not put it down. It was so good. I think I'm gonna do a reread soon. I loved this so much. I thought it was way better than She Was Gone, her other book. But this one was there's just something about it that I couldn't get enough of, and I loved it. Then She Was Gone. This was good. I felt like it was pretty predictable in my opinion. There were some things at the ending. There was like a letter from the girl at the end that I really loved in a sense. I actually read it a couple of times, like the very ending. So it was sad, but like also kind of a beautiful ending in a sense, in that the daughter was kind of at peace. And so it was good. And I recommend it. It is dark and creepy, but I liked The Family Upstairs better. I mean, this one, like I said, I felt like it was kind of predictable, but still a good read. I have another Lisa Jewell book. I have not read this one yet, Watching You, but I look forward to it just because I loved her, The Family Upstairs, so much. Again, her new release, Invisible Girl. I'm excited to read this one as well. I've seen some good reviews for this, so I'm anxious to get it read. B.A. Paris, I do like a lot as well. The Breakdown. I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. I thought it was really enjoyable. The mystery was great. Good pacing. I really liked it. Very exciting. So I do recommend this book. Bring Me Back, also by B.A. Paris. This was really good too. I got totally wrapped up in it. It's a little far-fetched. So if you're super open-minded and you don't care about that stuff, you'll probably really enjoy it. I did. But I know some people, it did bother them, how far-fetched it was and how would he have not known whatever is, happening. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. Well done. Behind Closed Doors, of course, I loved this. I read this years ago. This is the first book of B.A. Paris that I read. Very good, very mysterious and dark and really good. So I recommend this one, of course, to everyone as well. The Dilemma. I have not read this one yet. It's her brand new one. I hope to read it really soon, maybe this year, 2021. I heard it's a little bit different than maybe some of her other ones, but I am open-minded and I'm excited to read it. So that is my horror and thriller shelves. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or anything, please just leave a comment on the video. And if there's anything more you want to hear about, just let me know. Sorry I didn't give like details on all of them. There's just a lot of books and I want to do my fantasy next and that's going to take forever. But I also don't want to give away too much. Like I want it to, if you guys think something looks intriguing, you can go and look it up and see. But if you want more descriptions, more thoughts and whatnot, let me know in the comments. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching and please subscribe.